not how it is. So I just wanted to add that to what you said too. For me, I think, there's a lot, like he said, that I don't love about the trading industry. There's a lot of fugazi on the internet, but I really don't like small account challenges. And the reason why I hate small account challenges is because they give these new traders the idea that trading is like a game. It's like gambling, right? So, hey, come join my Discord. I'm going to do a small account challenge. That's typically what you see. And then eventually it just poof goes away. And it gives the notion that like you can come in with $1,000 and your goal should be to turn it to 5 or 10,000. And if you don't, okay, it was just a challenge. Like you'll load another 1,000, you load another 1,000. And I think it takes away from how you need to focus on the principle. You need to focus on the strategy, and instead makes it more of a game, and it really hurts traders in the long term, in my opinion.
Definitely.
I think I would have to say it's the process of getting to be profitable, right? Which a lot of people make it seem like on social media that, they have a holy grail. So if they come join them or their course or whatever it is, they'll become profitable, which is not the case. It's going to be a different process for everyone, and it's a very long battle. Right, getting to be profitable is a whole different challenge, and like Rake said, then keeping it to be profitable is a separate challenge. But I think the holy grail that a lot of people try to sell, be it with a small account challenge, or hey, I have an algo, or my Discord, or whatever the case is, I think that is one of the biggest misconceptions of the trading community.
And just to add on really quickly, I think as people who all sell some sort of product or service in the educational space, we'll be the first to tell you that even if you have perfect strategy, perfect mentor, perfect program, we all take pride in the education that we provide. If you come and take a program, you're gonna get a good strategy. You're gonna get something that works. By no way, shape, or form does that mean that you're guaranteed, that it's easy from that point on. It just makes it's hard in this space because I think people advertise it as, this is my system, this is my strategy, it never fails, it never works. No, it doesn't matter if the system you learn is perfect. If you don't figure out how to work it for yourself, it's not gonna work. It really isn't. Even if there is a holy grail, even if it's there, you still have to master yourself, right? So I think that just wanted to add that on to what you mentioned.
I think there's a big misconception with copy paste. Everybody tries to copy and paste something.
Yeah.
And there's no uniqueness there. And there has to be an aspect of being unique to how you trade. I can learn from you, I can learn from you. Everybody watching this can learn from every one of us, like you said. But if you don't develop that uniqueness to how it fits you, and you try to copy and paste, you're just setting yourself back, and it's gonna be really hard to develop his strategy or her strategy without conforming it to your personality, without conforming it to your EQ. You could be as smart as possible, but if you don't conform it to yourself, it's gonna be hard to learn it, and it's gonna be hard to profitably trade it.
Yeah, like I was telling Riz yesterday, it's like sitting in someone's car, right? Me and Jaden, we have a huge gap in our height. So if I go and sit in his car, I would have to make a lot of adjustments, right? So the car is his strategy. So even if I learn from him, I would have to change the mirrors, the steering wheel, the seat to how it would fit my height. Again, I'm not that short, but so that's how a lot of people don't understand that. When they learn, they think it's, again, copy paste, and they have to take it from there. But you have to make tweaks to who you are as a person, mentally speaking, how well you can handle the wins and losses and so on.
Right. I was on the golf course the other day, and I saw a guy driving the ball, and his form was terrible, but it worked so well. And I think that's a good analogy because, you could have what you consider bad form in trading, but it works for you, and that's how you make money. The guy swinging the club on the golf course, any professional golfer would say this guy's swing is terrible, but it works for him, and he drove the ball, and he golfed very well. And I think in trading, it's the same thing. You can learn how to swing a golf ball, you can learn how to hit the club, but you have to conform it to yourself and make it work for you and figure that part first. I think that's the foundation to trading.
Definitely. And one thing that you touched on there, Rake, which I think would be good to just highlight at the very beginning of this roundtable, is that you all have services, right? Yes. You all offer education in the trading space. Now, there's a lot of people out there, they just absolutely hate that. They detest that. They have the mindset of, if you're a profitable trader, why should you have an educational platform? And I think this is a great opportunity where, 4 of you here have that and are well respected within the industry to kind of just address that comment that people make.
Yeah, I would love to. I think it's a very popular question, and then there's a lot of common responses. And the first common response is usually like, well, think of like a sports athlete, right? They take sponsorships, even though they have a contract, all that. And I think those are totally fair, totally valid, totally true. I'm going to be completely honest. I offer an educational course service because I think I'm really good at it. And I think I'm very good. My entire life, I've coached sports. I've done one-on-one lessons mainly for basketball. That's been a part of my life. I've always felt like in classes I've been a strong communicator. I know how to phrase things well. This is just something that I'm good at. And so a lot of people are like, oh, why do you do this? Why do you charge? Because I'm real, not to sound cocky, I think I'm really good at it. And I think our feedback kind of speaks for itself on some level. So I feel like if I wasn't delivering the value that I claim to be delivering, I wouldn't necessarily do it. But this is something for me that I look at it more as you can have whatever opinion you want on it. I'm really good at it. And if the students who are taking it are over the moon happy, then this is the win-win-win-win-win. If people walk out of my program feeling like they could have paid 20x more and they'll still be happy, I think that's more reflective of the effort I've put in and all that. So I think there's a lot of, you could ask a million questions. Why do you still do it for money? Why do you do this, blah, blah, blah? I think I'm really good at it. That's genuinely my answer. I think I'm very, very good at it.
That was a badass answer, I'd like to first say. And to add on to that, there's a few aspects, whether you're looking at the statistics of people and how they learn, and just in general paying attention. People who pay attention. And you think of it like college. People will go spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year in college, not blink an eye. But God forbid, you take any of our programs ranging from 1,000 to 5,000, whatever they are, all fantastic. All of a sudden it's this super evil thing. So adding on to what he said, anyone who sells a program and people hate it, they don't stay in business, right? People don't stay, they dispute the charges, they write bad reviews, you name it. So if you see, all these guys' programs, our program, and there's all these good reviews, people like it, we've been going for years, we're doing something right. So to add on to him and kind of steal his answer, if I wasn't good at it, if we weren't good at it, we wouldn't do it. And I think that if you look around, there's plenty of free education. Well, I'll tell you that. If you want free education, go to each of our YouTube channels. There's tons on there. Nonetheless, right, you guys are still looking for that next level, and all of us as successful traders, people that run successful businesses, people that do other things besides trading too, right, our time is valuable, and that, for me at least, is why we charge, and I see value in charging for good education.
So I think out of everyone here, I started in 2014, so I'm probably the oldest.
Yes.
So I've had a lot of experience in this. When I first started, there was a lot of free content, free information. I did a lot of helping of my friends. And one thing that, I came to a conclusion of, when you give something for free, people don't respect it. Right. And when they don't respect it, they don't pay attention to it. I have a complete free options course when they join the Discord. The amount of people that watch it, that come into the Discord, is probably 10%, right? And when I tell them, hey, it's free, they're like, oh no. And then we actually did a test, I think it was 2021, and I started charging for it. Half of the people paid for it. They watched it right after. I had a couple of my friends come up to me, hey, I want to learn how to trade. Sat down with them, hey, let's do a Zoom meeting this time. Guess what? Always late. But when someone's paying for it, they're respecting your time, and they're actually going to, pay attention to whatever you're providing them. And I think that's why a lot of people charge, because people don't respect people's time. And that's more important than the money factor. But when you put the money into the mix, then people are going to start respecting your time as well. So I guess that's why a majority of the people are doing, charging for their courses and Discord.
Yeah, when you charge for something, there's an accountability aspect to it. If you do it for free, like you said, and people aren't going to pay attention to it. And time is very valuable. And, with trading, people expect that if you buy a service, they're automatically going to be successful, or you took his signal, you're going to make money on it 100% of the time. And that's a really bad misconception. Or one thing I would say I hate about the trading space too is that, if you take his course and in the first month you don't make money on it, well, his course sucks. And that's not the case, because what you're trying to do, again, is copy and paste. And you have to take bits and pieces of different formulas and build it into your own equation. And once you have your own equation, that's going to be the money maker for you. So coming back to that, all of us sitting here, we all have a service, and we all have very excellent reviews for our services. And there are people that will take it seriously, that will make money off of it, but there's going to be a lot of people that don't take it seriously, that want the success handed to them, and that's the people who are going to fail, and those are the people that are going to put the blame on us instead of themselves.
So one of the things that I always try and do in our program is we have a first little like kickoff webinar, we call it. And during the kickoff webinar, I have this slide where I go through, and it's like what I call a reasonable timeline. And I basically give the expectation before we actually start any lessons. So I'm like, hey, just as a heads up, you're going to learn this all and you're going to be mind blown. I promise you that. But at the end of it, at month 1, you're going to feel like the greatest human being ever. You're going to take one trade that uses the system, it works, and you're going to feel invincible. And you're probably going to blow up at some point after that, right? And it's basically giving this expectation that it might take you 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, anything after that. But if you're expecting that after 1 month or 2 months, whatever the case may be, to be good, send us a message right now. We're going to refund you. We're going to cancel. We're not a good match, and we're not a good fit, and this is not the right. So, because I think you have to sort of lay that foundation of like, hey, like just to be clear, right? I'm going to offer the opportunity to show you a skill. If you think at the end of this month you're going to have it figured out so perfectly, this is not a good fit, because this is not so, because ultimately you're going to be unhappy. You're going to think that we didn't do you right in the service, or any case like that. We just don't want to, that's not something that we want to mess with. And so I think it's very clear, no matter what you're doing, no matter who you're learning from, no matter what you're focusing on, make sure that you understand that it's like studying for a college test, right? Or any high school test. Us teaching the materials is like you reading it in a textbook. That's not enough to pass a test. You need to make flashcards. You need to do other things. Whatever your method of learning is, just reading the textbook isn't enough. And that's what going through lessons or recordings are. That's reading the textbook. Great. Now go and get some real life experience. And in reality, what you need to do is you probably need to lose several times in the market and get slapped. And once that comes, once you've been slapped enough, then you'll start to make some progress, right?
It's your tuition.
It really is.
You have to pay the tuition.
Sometime learn a system, practice that system, watch it fail over and over again, watch the mistakes you make, and then figure it out. It's not something where you can learn a system and then, oh, I'm good. I think that having that expectation is very important, not just for us, but just anybody out there for any service that you might take, right? Please give yourself the right reasonable expectations. And if your educator is not telling you about those expectations and leading you to believe you'll be good after a month, might be time to find a new educator.
I guess a lot of people don't expect to fail. That's the problem.
Yes,
right.
correct.
Because it's because of social media, right? So when a lot of, even us, when we post what we do post, people take what they want to take from that. They don't say, hey, this guy might have been, learning from this guy for a year, 2 years, 3 years. They don't understand what happens in the back end. They just see that one post and say, all right, I'm going to take the course. This is going to be me in a month. And that's not the reality of trading. Not just trading, it's anything you do, right? In college, in any profession, doctor, lawyer, whatever profession you're in, there's a process. You learn for 3-4 years, 5 years, then you have to go in the real life. And then in real life, there might be challenges that are not presented in the textbook. So then you have to use your brain and think of ideas how you can navigate around those problems. A lot of people are not used to that. They think, all right, I'm going to take a course. This course is going to have every single thing I need, and I'll be a millionaire. Which, again, it's all about their expectations. And I think we can only do so much in terms of telling them, hey, you have to have the right expectations. But at the end of the day, it's on that person on how they take that information.
All right. So I think for the biggest thing for me as a trader is you have to be clear-minded. And all you could do is just go on Twitter, go on TikTok, and you'll see thousands of posts from thousands of other traders who are giving out advice. And a lot of traders follow this advice from 30 other people, and they have all these thoughts, all this analysis that is just blinding them from the true answer, and the true answer is in themselves. You have to find it internally, not externally. And they're searching from an external source from 30 other people, and it's just blinding them from the truth. So my best advice is to focus on yourself, focus on 1, 2, 3 other people, but don't go on Twitter, follow 100 people and look at his analysis that he's bullish, her analysis that she's bearish, his analysis think they're gonna go to the moon. You have to focus on yourself, and the best analysis will always be your own analysis.
Definitely, no, I love that. And it kind of takes us into the next subject really in terms of learning, right? And you quite already touched on this a little bit, Jake, but in terms of people or your students or from your own journey, like what was the best practices or methodologies you saw people making that progress from learning, And let's head it this way this time. Let's go over to Carmine and go the other way around. But yeah, so in terms of people actually whether it's your students and seeing how they've progressed, or from your own journey, what steps or things did they do, or what traits did they have which showed that they actually made progress? Let's take a break for a minute there, guys, because I want to tell you about the best trading tool on the market, TradeZeller. The reason why TradeZeller is the #1 trading tool that
I love what all of you guys have said on this topic. I think that if you're somebody out there who's struggling, this was a great question, because these are the kinds of little things that you can pinpoint that can help you grow and get over those hurdles, right? And I think rather than going on to like some of what my students have done to go over there, I think just speaking to myself personally, the leap that made me have like this crazy jump of progression, I think was when I stopped focusing on what can I do better from like a chart perspective, all that. Like once you figure out a system that works, rock with it, stick with it. My thought process more became around, okay, how do I stop like messing up my big mess ups, right? Like how do I stop doing these things that I consistently am doing wrong? Basically, I started to prepare for the worst case scenario every single day, right? Like for me, one of the biggest struggles that I had is I would make, just for round numbers, let's say I called by Thursday, I'd be up $900 on the week, and I wanted to close the week at 1,000, and then I'd end the week at 100 because I did some stupid stuff on Friday. Like that was the biggest, and that I think is for most traders out there who are struggling, it's probably one of the hurdles that you're going through, is that you're making money, but you're not able to keep it. I think when I started to really take a leap forward was when I started to stop trying to be perfect or worrying about the trades that went right. The trades that went right, like, it's human nature to want to focus on those more and try and capitalize on them more, all that. And rather than necessarily like, oh, I learned from what I was doing wrong or anything like that, no, I started to prepare for worst case scenarios, right? So ways that I would do that is if I had profits, I would withdraw them immediately. I didn't care if I was red year to date. I didn't care if I was red lifetime. I didn't care anything. If I had profits and I was giving them back regularly, I said, okay, well now I got to get these out of the market every single day, whatever it might be, right? So I think that the biggest thing that gave me a leap in my education was stop looking at what can I do more right side of this, but be like, okay, what are the things that keep giving me these big headaches, these big blow-ups, and what are the little things I can do to try and prevent those, right? Whether it be doing a different type of like cash account versus margin, whether it be getting buying power out of your availability, whether it be withdrawing, whatever the case may be, find those big blow-up days, the big things that are holding you back, and start to prepare to prevent those. That to me is really the biggest thing, because one thing I think we can all agree on, as crazy as it sounds, making money in the market, it's not that hard. You have about a 50% chance. You can go long or short. Depending on the chart, but it'll work out. People, even that's why traders in the beginning never really struggle to, it's usually day trading, you start, you make money, you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, then you lose it all. The making it part isn't hard, it's the not losing it part that is very hard. And so if you can start to learn and prepare your brain to be like, okay, I gotta stop giving back these profits, I gotta stop doing this, and figure out methods to do that, I think you'll see a giant leap in your trading.
To add on top of that, so on Wall Street, a lot of these big firms have accountability managers or risk managers, and with institutional traders, or just traders that work at a firm physically, have account risk managers to them, and that prevents them from blowing up on a non-retail sense. And I think if traders had this in themselves, that they held themselves accountable to manage their risk properly, they would not have the blow-ups like you're saying, and they would put themselves in the position to not lose, like you just said, protecting those losses.
It's just funny that you say that, because last week was one of the biggest week of my career. And literally after day one of that week on Monday, I looked at Connor, who's right over there, and I said, your job the rest of the week is to make sure I don't do anything stupid and lose this all. So every morning he was up with me, we were going through stuff together, and basically if I put on too much risk in something and give me those eyes like, this is way bigger of a, or whatever the case may be, right? And I think that obviously not everyone's gonna be fortunate enough to have someone that they work with that closely, but you can have a partner and accountability and somebody that you check in with. And there's ways that's a very big model in the actual investing, like hedge fund type of world.
Yeah, they have that on Wall Street.
Have it on Wall Street. There's ways that you can implement something similar if you have an accountability partner, a friend, maybe a spouse, right? Whatever the case may be, where it's sort of like, hey, I made money today. Our goal for the rest of the month is to keep this safe. And if I start to do some silly stuff, I need you to be on me about it, right? And I think it's a life hack that if you have a supportive partner or spouse that could potentially help that role, it's sometimes I go back and forth on whether or not it's a good thing, right? But if you have a relationship with a partner that could help you out in that way, it could be game changing for you. It genuinely could be.
And I think lastly, comparison too. That's something a lot of new traders do. speaking from experience, like there's days where I've seen, I'm red, you two might be green, he might be green. And, if I start comparing, like, all right, why was I wrong today? But a lot of people, what they do is they try to compare themselves with someone else, and that doesn't work out, right? If I start letting things like that get to me, if you've been trading for 10 years, mentally it's going to drain you, and you're never really going to be getting ahead of yourself, because at the end of the day, the competition is between you and yourself, not, the person sitting on my left or my right. It's going to be simply between you. And if you're not growing and if you're not self-reflecting and, you're focusing on what someone else is making or what other car they're driving, and that's your goal, you're pretty much going to be stuck in their world, and you're never going to get ahead.
There's a uniqueness to trading that has to be mastered.
Definitely. And, you touched on discipline and sort of waking up at 5 a.m. earlier. And I know you guys have like a routine. You go to the gym quite often.
You got to have some sort of a system that keeps you on track. That's it. You don't really have to go to the gym. That's, I guess, an extra bonus. Yeah. Right? Just like that keeps me accountable. I feel good. I feel better. After a loss, I go to the gym and I'm able to kind of zone myself out. That's where I kind of meditate as well. Absolutely. I don't know if Jaden agrees with that or not, but I put on my music and I'm able to kind of forget my losses, and I'm in my own little world, at that time. And I think that is kind of my system. But again, you don't really have to have. I have to go to the gym. I have to wake up at a certain time. Obviously, you don't want to be waking up at 9:25 a.m. 5 minutes before the market opens. But having a system is, being disciplined. But it's just a system that helps you, constantly grow.
And I think one of the things for me that is I'm now at a point in my trading career where, like, as much as I'm continuing to get better every single day, and that's something I'll speak on later as well, I'm happy with where I'm at, and I'm like working towards the things that make me happy. Like, I am the type of person, probably one of the few at this table, I love movies and TV. They get me so fascinated. I get into the storylines. I want to know what the writers were thinking. Like, my analytical brain just starts to go very deep on that. So that's something that I really enjoy doing, right? So if I've had a tough trading day and I go and I take a walk and I do whatever the case may be, and I kind of get myself in the right headspace, something that will bring me back to the area that gets me in a right area to trade is doing something I love, which would be, for example, watching a show that it truly fascinates me, right? Where I'm not just watching it for what the story comes in. I'm analyzing, that was like every little detail of it. It's just the way my brain works. And so, like you said, whatever that is for you, as whatever you can de-stress, unwind, bring yourself back to this state that you need to be in mentally to trade, as long as it's not like detrimental to your life or health, it's a good thing, right? And so we talked about this a lot on our last podcast. Everybody has their vices, no matter what you define it as, right? You could say that my vice is smoking pot, and that's something that I will very much hold with a proud flag. That is who I am. It's something that I do. I don't look at it as a vice. I look at it as something that's a tool that helps me unwind and helps me stay in the right headspace. Because I think I'm doing pretty well in life, despite that fact, despite the fact that I'm an avid pot user. So I think whatever it defines for you is important, and that's something that I stand by for sure.
So it's interesting. It's like Rake and I, we're really good friends,
Great
right?
friends, yeah.
And it's crazy. We can agree and disagree on things. Mm-hmm. Like, I agree with him in the sense that, like, discipline doesn't mean that you have to eat perfect every meal, which I do. I like to say I eat the same thing every day. Like, I don't change my food. I eat salmon, chicken, and steak every single day with rice. That's literally it. And that works for me. It might not work for him, or it might not work for you. It might work for you. He can smoke pot 5 times a day. I don't smoke pot, right? And I'll sit there and say, like, I don't think that I would be as productive in where I am if I smoked pot. But for him, right, it can work for him. And it kind of depends on, like, how you define success and define, like, what works for you. And in the case of the gym, like, this is where my view gets a little, not extreme, but, like, I'm reading this book, Discipline is Destiny by Ryan Holiday. And he talks about, like, people, you can't let your body go to shit and think that you're living a successful life. Like, your body is like your temple, right? You get one body, that's it. So, I think that in a sense, maybe it's not the gym, but you have to exercise to some sort. Like, you can't just let your body go to crap. I don't know a single successful person that has done that and maintained that success personally. And it goes even further that, like Rake was saying, you don't have to be in the gym 5 times a day or eat perfect meals. I like to do that. I'm a freak with my routine. I'm up at 5 every day. Same routine with charts and the whole trading community thing every day. Gym same time every day. Same meals every day. No alcohol, no drugs. Like
and everybody here has something that works for them. You can make money with ICT. You can make money with indicators. You can make money with price action. You can make money with smart money concepts, right? But if you develop it to yourself, you manage your risk properly, and you have this uniqueness to that strategy, you can make money with it. And there's no one size fits all. Oh, he talks about this, let me follow him perfectly. He talks about this, let me follow you perfectly. It's not like that in trading. And every successful person that I know, like you said, the body being the temple and they take care of themselves, has developed a specific strategy that fits them. And that's everybody sitting here too.
That's so true. And I love what you touched on there in terms of, what gets you into the zone again, what gets you ready to trade again, because the markets are so chaotic. And I'd love to hear from the rest of you as well. Like, is there something that helps you to do that? Whether it's the gym, whether it's something completely different, is there something that helps you to sort of get back into that calm state to trade again?
I think hot yoga. No, I'm kidding. For me, it's gonna be the gym factor. When I go in there, I turn off the charts. I don't pay attention to the charts. I put my phone in do not disturb. I want to completely disconnect myself from that charting world and just focus on what I'm doing. And I've I have a system in the gym where I know what I'm gonna work out, so I can put on. Sometimes I'm hearing some weird music that you're not really used to listening to in the gym, and it's not on purpose. I just zone out, and I'm in my zone where I'm working out and I'm thinking about, all right, the loss is done. What's my next move? Resetting myself, and that kind of helps you, reset. And when you go back in front of the screen, it's gonna give you a fresh mind and fresh set of eyes to look at, and what charts you need to be looking at. So again, it might not work for everyone, right? You can go do hot yoga if that works, right? It might work out, I don't know. But that really helps me reset. And there was a time where I was waking up at 5 a.m. I've stopped doing that. I have fourth kid is coming. With three kids, it's all I need to get my sleep in. So now I don't really wake up at 5, but when I was waking up at 5, I think I had the best result. It wasn't the waking up at 5 a.m. It was just that system I had. Waking up at 5, watching what the market is doing, going to the gym, coming back, charting, getting my levels in place, going to the office, trading, right? So having a system is I think, very important, and also keeps you disciplined and accountable.
So the way I look at it is our brains have millions of thoughts on a daily basis, up, down, sideways, buy, sell, he's saying this, she's saying that, right? So our brains become clouded. And once our judgment's clouded, we tend to make decisions, irrational ones and ones based off of emotions that have to be avoided. So our brain is like the memory on a phone. If the memory on a phone is over full, the phone's gonna run really slow, right? You're not gonna be able to navigate through the phone, go through the apps. So having this vice, for me personally, if I sit at the screens for 6 hours a day, I am fried. I don't want to do nothing. I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to just close my eyes and go to sleep because I'm processing so much information in a day, and my phone memory is over full and it's not going to work efficiently. So having the vice is key. For me, it's going to the gym like everybody says. I think that's the biggest thing, because once you're in the gym for 2 hours, hour and a half, you come out of the gym feeling really good and feeling reset. The phone memory has gone to zero, and you could go sit on the screens now and be able to process information fluently, and that's the clear-mindedness that everybody needs to have. So finding a vice and then sticking with that daily and building a routine out of that will help dissolve the phone memory and reset it to zero. That way you could sit behind the screens and have information presented to you, and you're gonna be able to read it in a clear manner and then take very good trades based off of that.
Yeah, and that's also something I didn't understand. A lot of people trade all day. I can't do that. By 10:30, 11, because again, we're charting from 8, 8:30. That's 3 hours. How do people manage that? I've done that a couple of times, and by 4, I can't even spell my own name, right? So my gym timing is actually around 11, 11:30. So that forces me to go and leave the computer. And again, it comes down to that system, staying disciplined. And I know if I don't go at 4 and if I don't go at 11 and I end up going at 4, and I take that pre-workout, I'm not sleeping tonight. So for that reason, I always go at 11. That gives me time away from the screen to reset as well.
That's crazy. We have the exact same schedule in the morning.
Me too.
I live in Colorado, so it's 9:30 your guys' Eastern time. But if I'm at the computer past 9:30, I either went on tilt or there's a problem. Yeah. Something not playing, but
the more time you spend in the casino, the more money you're going to give to the casino.
Seriously, and it's I try to tell people that all the time. It's if you see the best poker players, best gamblers go into the casino, they're not sitting there playing for 8 hours. There's a reason they keep bringing you those drinks, right? They get in, they win their games, they get out. If they keep, the more you play, the more the house is going to win. You know, the house is market makers in the stock market. The house is the casino with the massive chandeliers and the millions and millions of dollar facilities. Like, the more you sit there and play your hand, if you don't have an edge, the more you're going to lose. Like he said.
Definitely.
Even with an edge, when your brain is fried after watching this screen for 5 hours, it's not gonna matter, right? You're not gonna think clear. You're gonna end up making stupid mistakes. Like, I started seeing patterns that weren't there, right? And then people in my chat are like, "Bro, you good? You're over trading." I'm like, "Yeah, I am. Time to leave."
That's because your judgment becomes clouded. Essentially, your brain's like a cloud. Once it's too cloudy, you're not gonna be able to see through it. You know what I mean? So like, you have to dissolve the cloud, and everybody's gonna be different. For you, it's smoking. For him, me, and everybody else, it's going to the gym. You know what I mean? So like,
You're signaling him out, huh? Signaling like,
No, I mean, I want to make one thing clear.
like him and us.
maybe you should get into hot yoga.
I
Maybe
don't,
that
I
would-
don't, I don't smoke while I trade. This isn't after I'm. That's not like I got to get high to get ready to trade. Let's make something very abundantly clear. Okay?
That's your edge, isn't
this
it?
Is no, not at all. It typically does not work out well. That happened a few years ago. For me, it's something very much after the fact. Very much after the fact that once I'm done for the day. But I would like to add one little just note thing about getting into the right headspace, or because you can talk about after you're done trading and that like sort of, all right, how do I kind of unwind from the stress that I just incurred? One of the other things I think is getting your head in the right place to start to trade like that morning. And there's one little hack that made a giant difference for me. And I believe it has something to do with just brain recognition and the way that our brain associates sounds with feelings and emotions and everything. But for me personally, for many years, I listened to the exact same song every single day, 10 minutes before the market opened. And it was a really big thing for me because listening to that same song, and for me it was Mac Miller, Best Day Ever. And the theory behind it is I want to make that day and every day out there the best day ever, whether that be through the trading I'm having, whether that be through the realization and understanding that no one trade is going to kill me. And if I have a bad day, it can still be a good day in my actual life, right? And so if you're trying to get yourself in the right headspace before you trade, trick your brain by finding something that you do, and I think a song is the easiest way to go about it, every day, 10 minutes or 5 minutes before you start to trade or before market open, right? It's the same thing as having pre-market habits that you do. That little trigger in your brain, because you heard that song before the market opened, you are now more likely to follow your trading rules once the market has opened, right? And I think that's something, if you're trying to get yourself in the right headspace beforehand, that's a really good key. And then afterwards, again, whatever it may be, whether it's a vice, whether it's a part of your life, I don't know if I would consider the gym a vice. I think that's just a good thing you guys are doing. But if it's a vice in terms of like, oh, like I walk around the city and smoke a joint, or I go do whatever the case may be, whatever it is that gets you in find something that gets you in the right headspace before the market opens, and find something that gets you in the right headspace after the market is closed.
There's one thing that I like doing. There's an 11-minute Wim Hof guide on YouTube. It's a guided little meditation thing. And before the market opens, I like listening to this Wim Hof 11-minute guide, and it puts me in that mindfulness and gives me that clear mind to prepare for the market.
I love that. Like, kind of similar to your song, like every morning after I do my whole life thing, I have to leave the house and go get coffee. Like, if I can't trade that day, if I don't leave the house before, it's a mental thing. I leave the house, go drive around for like 10, 15 minutes, get my coffee, come back, and then once I'm back, it's like I'm locked in. And it's just, that's a routine I've gotten into, and it's worked so far.
I think it's just really interesting because there's these small little things, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, but if you want to succeed as a trader, there's no shortcut to doing it, but there's a lot of small little things that you can do, right? And one of the biggest things that you can do to, quite frankly, trick your brain is having those things that you do every single day, right? So we've talked about pre-market habits and stuff, but I would really encourage you to just find a few little things that you can do, like drive for 10 minutes, make your bed, right? Make sure that there's no dishes in the sink, whatever it may be, these little triggers. If you do that every day before the market opens or before you start to trade, then it becomes significantly easier for your brain to say, okay, well, I have these rules, I should probably follow them because I had the rule about making my bed, I did that. I had the rule about listening to the song, I did that. If I have a rule about not taking a trade when my trading plan hasn't, triggered me yet, then I probably shouldn't take a trade, right? Like it's following these little things. So there are these little hacks that can make a significant difference. And if you think that those things don't make a difference, then in my opinion, you're holding yourself back. You really are, because those little things can make all of the difference.
Oh, definitely, I love that. And in terms of a trading plan, seeing as you mentioned it, what would you say needs to be in a trading plan?
For me, my trading plan is very, very specific each and every morning. So I am the type of person that, and the vast majority of my losses come from when I did not follow that trading plan, right? Because for me, the style in which I trade, I define what I'm going to look at each day or what I'm going to trade to like a T. So I have really two setups that I look for, and pretty much each day I trade one variety of those two setups: a gap over a level or a gap under a level. And for me, my pre-market plan is so specific that it's like I would like one stock to open above this certain price. I'd like it to come back under that price, then get back above that price, get back above the opening print, offer a 2-minute higher low, and on that higher low I can enter, right? So for me, if it doesn't go across and do each one of those things, then I probably shouldn't trade it that day. So I think having a trading plan will be very contingent to your strategy, because there are going to be times where you could say, hey, I need to wait to see price action develop or something like that, or whatever the case may be. The point where I'm at in my trading now is, if it's, pardon my French, but I love this line, if it's not a fuck yes, it's a fuck no. And it really is. And so if I can't create a plan that is, I need X, 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 and Y to happen, and then I'll get my 2-minute higher low or lower high, and I'll look to enter. If I don't get all of that, probably shouldn't trade that day, because it's probably not an F yes, which means by definition, if it's not an F yes, it's an F no. So I think, again, it'll depend on your strategy, but for me, my pre-market trading plan is very specific. It has to be very, very, very specific.
I'll double that. And there's a phrase that I go by every day, and it's KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. My trading plan and how I trade is super simple. Unlike Rake, you trade SPY and ES, but you also trade a lot of individual names too. I only trade SPY, ES, QQQ, NQ, and sometimes Tesla if I'm trying to get the heart rate up. But I look at my levels every morning. I use the hourly chart, and I trade on the 5-minute and the 2-minute. That's it. If I get my confirmations, my level closes over, we hit my level for a bounce or a reject, whatever it may be, I'll trade it. Otherwise, if we don't hit my levels, if we stay between levels, say in here, I just won't trade. And that used to bother me a lot. I used to think, I'm a day trader, I have to trade every day. And I kind of came to the realization that, I am a day trader, I'm not a trade everyday trader. And that was a big thing for me that, I had to accept that I make the most money when I follow my setups. The times that I lose money are, like Rake said, when I don't follow my plan, and afterwards I'm like, Jadon, what the hell are you doing? Like, that wasn't part of your plan. You knew that wasn't a part of your plan. You did it anyway, and now you lost money. So I keep my setups very simple. I don't use indicators. I don't use fancy algorithms or bots. I look at the hourly chart. Obviously, I know where the daily is, the weekly is, and I execute on the 5-minute and the 2-minute, usually just trading SPY or ES, and I keep it simple and it works.
So I usually have a game plan from the weekend. I chart almost every Sunday. I don't skip that. It starts off on Saturday, but I call it lazy charting, where I just go over every setup, and then I filter down to 10 stocks by end of Sunday night. And then Monday morning, right, I'll filter it down to just 2 stocks that I'm going to be watching for the opening drive. I look for certain setups. But I think one thing that I do very different from a lot of other people is I don't set targets when it comes to profit targets, price targets. I feel like when you start setting a certain target and money's involved, you're going to be way too focused on that. I don't know if you guys remember about Dogecoin. A lot of people held through that because it's going to go to $1, right? I think it hit 74 cents. People didn't sell. So that's another reason why I don't like setting targets, but I know where I'm going to enter. I have a stop loss in place. I'll exit if there's not enough volume supporting the move. And those are usually the key things that I look at. But the target thing is something I stay away, which I stayed away from after I think my second year of trading, because I realized that I started focusing too much on those targets, and I would either overhold trades, hold them below my stop loss. But once I took that target off, be it a profit target or a price target, I tend to take the profits and I'm easily able to walk away from the market, and I don't give back a lot.
I like what you said about having targets that you could, let basically the market keep going and make more money by not having a fixed target in mind. So for every single trading plan, in my opinion, it needs to have a solid entry or confirmation signal, a thesis for that trade, valid stop loss or risk management parameters, which invalidates your thesis, not based off of a dollar amount, not based off of percent amount, and then have what I call a static target, similar to what you said. Not have, oh, I'm going to target $100. I'll maybe look that to be my first target, but then maybe I'll hold runners and look to capitalize on further upside if it keeps breaking. But I do believe you need to have a target because you need to base your risk off of something. So if my target is way too close and my risk to reward ratio is under 2 to 1, I'm probably not going to take that setup. But what I do is I essentially have a 5-step process. Is I create, number one, levels of interest based off of a supply demand zone, a key level that was developed off of the tape. So I'm a short-term trader, and I need to focus on what's happening in the now time frame of what is happening with volume. And there are certain levels that you can't see based off of a candlestick chart. I still use candle charts, I still believe in them, but I think a lot of people rely on their analysis too much on them because, and again, it's different. I see you shaking your head. I agree with that because you have something that works for you and it's a candle chart, and I'm sitting here saying that, but that's the uniqueness to trading is you have something that works and I have something that works, right? So there's some levels that get created off of the time and sales or any volume patterns that you can draw on a chart but can't be found on the chart. And the market tends to gravitate towards them to retest them. So number one, creating a level of interest. Number two, gauging how the market reacts to that level of interest. If you're watching Tesla to break above, let's just say $100, as soon as it breaks above 100, I'm not getting in long because what if it breaks 100 and there's a really large seller sitting there? You know, I don't want to be playing that breakout if I spot a seller there. So I need to gauge how the market reacts to my level of interest. Then step 3 is create a valid trading plan, entry, stop loss, static target. 4 is follow that plan, and 5 is manage my risk and keep my emotions out of it. And that's just keeping it simple, like you said, KISS.
To add to what you said, stopping trading breakouts is one of the best things I ever did for myself. Like, you know, it's nice, like over 100, you know, take profit 101, 102, whatever is great. And some people have a lot of success with it, right? Some people are great at breakouts. They gave me a lot of anxiety. I found myself losing more than I won. And so for me, in my edge, and you and your edge, it sounds like, you know, breakouts are just tough, but there's people, you know, maybe you're great at breakouts or you're great at breakouts. Just couldn't be for me.
I would say they too are good for you guys more breakouts than reversals, no?
No, I don't do much with breakouts, but I just, in the process of everything that was just said over the past like 5 minutes, I was so fascinated because there were so many different things. First, I didn't mean to like shake my head. I was more like, oh damn.
I love that.
Like, it was so like,
that.
it's interesting to me, right? But it's funny because you said, you don't do breakouts. So I'm also not a breakout guy. I know you dominate breakouts. That is how you crush, right?
I don't like reversals.
You don't like I'm not I trade with trends. So I like to long higher lows, short lower highs. So I like just trend pullbacks. But it's just fascinating because all of you mentioned short-term traders, right? No breakouts. I'm personally not a breakout guy either, but like you guys, but I'm not a short-term trader. I like to capture things for a full day. I like to capture things so one thing that I was personally curious about between the three of you, because from my understanding, the trades that you're in are like within the minute, like durations are typically minutes. Like most trades aren't held for like hours, periods of time. Do you guys ever have FOMO when things make giant moves without you? Like, is that a piece of something? Because that was my biggest thing that hurt me for the longest time, as all being shorter term traders. Does that
I think that
hurt you?
still happens.
Yeah,
I still have FOMO.
Okay,
He was having FOMO in the morning on NVIDIA, right? I think that's still part of us as a trader. Like, I don't think
we have to pull the laptop out.
Yeah,
So
he's pulling it out already. I think that's going to be something, you know, it's always there. Like emotions are something you can't suppress. You can only navigate around them, right? You can't say, all right, I'm not sad. I'm going to build my mind to be resilient against being sad or FOMO. No, that's I don't think that's possible. I think it's always there. You just got to find a way to navigate around that emotion. Right. It could be greed. It could be FOMO. Like, for example, if I continue trading after 11, regardless of how great of a trader I might think I am, if my mind isn't right, if I'm already, you know, fried, doesn't matter. I'm not going to do well. So to fight that FOMO, fight that emotion, best thing is I found a system, which is walking away, going to the gym, right? So that keeps me away from the computer.
All right, so the way I look at that too is I completely agree, but are you trading to trade the action or are you trading to make money? And a lot of people trade to trade the action, not to trade money, to make money.
I love that, yeah. I think it just goes along the lines with something that I say a lot of time, which is that just because a move is happening in a chart does not mean that there was a trade there. And I think that's a very common misconception. Is people say, oh my gosh, like this stock is making this giant move, like why am I not trading it? Why am I not long? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, just because it's making that move does not mean there was a valid trade there, especially if you're somebody who trades the S&P 500 or the NAS or whatever the case may be. By definition, those names have a lot of ranging days where they end up staying in a range and consolidating, and there's ways to trade those, but naturally it's going to be a little bit more frustrating. So I just think it's fascinating to me. It really is, yeah.
Plus, I think a lot of people look at the short term,
Yeah.
right? Like 30 minutes, the first 30 minutes, people are taking like 30 trades, right? You have the whole day, you have the whole week, the whole year, right? Why are you so concerned about the first 5-10 minutes? And a lot of people don't look at this as a long game. They look at it, all right, I have to trade within the first 5 minutes, and then they're out of the capital. You know, because a lot of new traders, they don't have enough capital. So now they're sitting out while there's so many other opportunities. But if you wait for those opportunities, like, the system that all of us just explained, everyone has a different system, different trading plan. Have that trading plan, and that's going to help you avoid having that FOMO.
For me, there's days when if SPY makes an $8, $10 move, I capture $1 of that. There is some FOMO, but for me, I'm very loud and proud about this. I am an entrepreneur and family man first, trader second. I love trading. I got into trading to, my goal was to make a few $1,000s, hit the gym. I always say that. But if I wanted to work a 9 to 5 and sit at my computer all day, I would have done that. For me, I like to make a few $1,000s, go build my businesses, go to the gym, hang out with my kid, and live life. I value my time a lot. So yes, could I potentially make more if I, sat at my computer longer? Yes, but I personally value my time a lot. I value building businesses. I'm very active in real estate, small business building around Denver, a little bit in Nebraska, and I value my time just a ton. So if I can sit there and trade for an hour or two, make a few $1,000s, 5, 10 grand, whatever it is, lose money, I value that more than what I could potentially make capturing that bigger move. That's just how I operate.
I think people don't understand the value of time. That's the biggest asset we have. You could put in, you could go make $1 million, but you're not going to get the time back. So you have to use your time very, very wisely. Where you allocate your time is going to define where you're going to be in the next 5-10 years. It's not the money, it's the time allocation, which is more important.
And I'm not advocating for staying at the desk longer and anything, just to be clear. No, I was mainly just curious because I know with shorter term traders, that FOMO, because that was really the thing, and that gave me a lot of insights. I was really just
What
curious.
about on the opposite side for you then, Jake? When the market's, you're planning for a longer term trade, but
Yeah.
it only gives a scalp or a short term move and then goes the other way.
Yeah, that's part of life that I have to kind of deal with, and I think it's a pick your poison type of situation, right? Because on one end, if you watch SPY make an $8 move and you sold after $1, you're going to have some FOMO from that, right? And that's going to be something that you're going to have to deal with. On the flip side of it, for me, if I'm expecting SPY to make an $8 move and it only moves $1, that's something that I'm going to have to deal with, right? So it's something that as traders, it's whichever way you're going to have to deal with it, you're going to have to deal with it. I found that for me, I really struggled to see, if I exited a trade, and then especially with trading options,